Welcome back to another C Designs woodworking video. Recently I've been taking on some furniture repair, and I had a friend of mine who said he had the best repair that would come through my shop, and he was right about that. No, not only the best one, but the most unique repair. Now there is no way that I'd be sitting in this chair if I hadn't already completed it. So I've already done the repairs on the chair, but I'm hiding the repairs that I did, especially the main repair, because I want you to follow along and see how I did the repair on this chair, because this chair was not fit for anyone to sit in, especially on top of my workbench. There's no way I'd be sitting in this chair on top of my workbench. But since I've completed the chairs, it's good, it's sturdy. It's going to be a great chair to rock in, read a book, or just relax. And it's actually not that uncomfortable. It's a very comfortable rocking chair. Just wait till you see how the transformation of this chair came about. Follow along now as we dive into this. This chair was a thrift store find, and it's very unique, but there's a big problem with this chair. It's at the very heart of it. Right in the center of this chair, it has been reworked and repaired because it had broken at one point. The four outer sections of the wheel are also very weak. They were actually repaired with silicone. Silicone is not a glue. It will not hold anything together, especially wood. As you can see here, I'm looking over the chair and just checking out all these weak spots, trying to figure out how I'm going to put this chair back together once I take it apart, repair a lot of the issues with the chair. The first task at hand was trying to get this wagon wheel off the back of the chair. They actually had taken more silicone and had filled in some screws, so the screws were hiding underneath some silicone. And of course what that did also was it got silicone down in the head of the screw, so I had to dig that out before I could even take a screwdriver to the screw to try to back it out. I am not a fan of screws, and so I will definitely be finding a different way to attach this wagon wheel back to the chair when I put it all back together. As you can see, there's all different types of sizes of screws. Let's get to taking this thing apart. So I used a screwdriver. I didn't use a drill or anything because I wanted to go easy backing them out, because you don't know if these are rusted or anything like that might break the head off. And if you break the head off, you're going to have a lot more of an issue. So it's better just to take your time. Grab my reverse clamp to start helping me take the wagon wheel off. I wanted to ease it off just to make sure there's no glue stuck on any of the spindles. But as I started to try to remove the wagon wheel, I ran into a problem. It wasn't wanting to release. Upon further inspection, I did find that there was yet another screw in there, and it was actually driven in pretty deep and well hidden. So I had to dig out some more silicone and then work that screw out. This particular screw looks like it belongs in some of that new Trex decking. Definitely doesn't belong in a rocking chair. Once I get this out, this wagon wheel should be free and I should be able to take it right off. I probably did not need the reverse clamp to help take the wagon wheel off. It came off pretty easy, but that reverse clamp does help with even pressure in lifting. But check out the material in this center I don't know exactly what they use to fix this. It is some kind of a putty. As I started taking this wagon wheel apart, I mean, that putty stuff was just crumbling. You can see my workbench right there. There's just little pieces all over the place. But I had to work these 4 sections apart. The bottom definitely didn't have any dowels holding it together. The 2 sides did, and the top did, and the top was very structurally sound. The sides and the bottom piece definitely were not. But just look at this putty. I mean, it's just crumbling. So there's no way that this chair could have been sat in. Now I'm just kind of looking over the wagon wheel itself, trying to determine what's the best way to put this thing back together. Because the thing about furniture, you got to take it apart, but you also have to put it back together. And this I've never really had to deal with. So I'm trying to figure out right here if I'm going to glue the center part first and then the outside pieces, or the outside pieces and then the center. I'll come back to the wagon wheel portion of this chair later on. Part of the agreement was to take all the joints apart, clean them up, and re-glue them, because this chair was very weak and very wobbly on pretty much all of the joints. So I took my reverse clamp and started working all of the glue joints. I ran into a little bit of a problem here. They had some wedges underneath holding in the 2 spindles that were on the side for the back of the chair, and those wedges were glued in very, very well. I ended up having to break out my Dremel tool. Here's a nice close-up of me actually having to cut out that wedge because it was glued in with so much glue. I couldn't even knock it out with just even a screwdriver and a hammer. Here I'm cleaning it out a little bit just to try to get this spindle out. It was quite a chore to get this thing out. Then I turned it back over and started fighting with it some more. I was using my reverse clamp to try and help lift this spindle up. That front spindle is free, and I think that was a lot of the problem. Every time I would try to lift the clamp up a little bit, it would actually lift the front spindle up, not the back spindle. So I got smart. I put a regular clamp on the front spindle to hold it in place. That way, as I clamped the reverse clamp, and it would actually lift up the rear spindle like it was supposed to do. This worked out a whole lot better. I only wish I would have thought of this a little bit sooner. It would have saved me some time fighting with this rear spindle. I didn't stop at the top portion of the chair. I moved right on down to the rockers as well. They were just as loose and wiggly as the top portion of the chair, and I wanted this chair to be good and sturdy for years to come. I didn't video me cleaning each of the tenons of each and every spindle, but I took the time, cleaned all of the tenons off, cleaned all the insides of where the tenons go into the mortises, and made sure that the wood was well exposed, because I wanted a good tight glue bond between the mortise and tenons. For the glue up, I just used regular wood glue, making sure that I coated both the mortise and the tenons very well, and making sure that I had a good amount of squeeze out once I put them in their places. Since we're in the middle of this glue up and things are coming along nicely, now would be a great time to like this video. And if you haven't already, if you wouldn't mind, subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have you be a part of our channel and our community. Hit that notification bell and you'll know when the next video is uploaded. Gluing up furniture is always interesting. especially rockers and chairs that have spindles at an angle. I'm actually having to add some extra clamps to these spindles just to hold my one long clamp from slipping down the spindle as I tighten it up, because I want to make sure that it has a good tight clamp on it so that that glue can dry up good and strong. Now it's time to get the arms and the two main back spindles all glued up. I've already done the one side and now I'm doing this side, and actually this side gave me a little bit of a problem. Somehow the middle spindle was off a little bit, and so it's actually making the front and the back spindle rock back and forth. So I ended up cutting that down just a little bit, and then once I got that cut to where it needed to be, everything glued up nice and tight. Now we get to work on the heart of this chair. This is the center piece. As you saw earlier on in the video, that putty was just crumbling and there was no way to fix it. The best thing to do was to start from scratch and return a new piece. The lathe is the newest tool in my shop, and there's been a little bit of a learning curve for myself. So right now I want to give a quick shout out to my buddy over at Amerikai Studios, Ken. He's answered a lot of questions concerning the lathe. This block of wood is a piece of maple that I had picked up from my local hardwood store. I wasn't sure what I was going to use it for, but it happened to be the perfect piece for this job. Thankfully, I was able to save the majority of that center piece of the chair. That way I could get the outside diameter. And here we're getting close to what the outside diameter needs to be, and then I can start marking out the features of the piece. And here you can see I've got it marked on the piece of wood where all the details are going to be on this piece, and now I just need to start carving them out. And we're finally getting down to the final details of this piece. As you can see here, I've got it pretty much designed how it needs to be, so it looks relatively close to the original piece. I keep stopping the lathe and checking my measurements just to make sure that I'm getting down to the right size. At this point, we're just shaving off just a little at a time because I don't want to take too much off, because I'm like so close to the final dimensions of this piece that I don't want to take too much off, so I'm constantly having to stop and check, because if you take too much off, then it's gonna mess it all up. Once I got everything to the right dimensions across the piece, then I took my Japanese pole saw and I cut the two holders on either end of it, and I had my final piece. It was a little bit of a challenge to get the holes drilled into this center piece. I used a tape measure, kind of like a fabric tape measure that some people use for like sewing, because it's flexible, it can bend around the piece, and that's how I marked all the places that the holes needed to be drilled. It worked out very well, and I was able to get equal spacing between each of the holes. The next challenging part of this chair was the 4 wagon wheel pieces. They had them connected with dowels, and that just was not working. There wasn't enough glue surface. So I got to thinking, how could I get enough glue surface to strengthen up these joints? So I got the idea to route out a slot in the same places that these dowels were, but it's going to actually have a strip of wood in there. The strips of wood will allow for a lot more glue surface, and because they're not round, they're not going to give like a dowel. I cut little sections out of the strips of wood, and these sections would correspond with each of the joints in the wagon wheel, and I marked each one so that way when I go to assemble it, I would know exactly where these little sections would go. Alright, it's time for the glue up. I've got 12 to 13 of these spokes between both the center and the wheel part. There's a lot of gluing up going on. I need a little bit of theme music. After the glue had time to dry, it was time to get this wagon wheel back on the chair where it belonged. Now, if you remember in the beginning, it was attached with screws, and I definitely was not going to reattach it with screws. I decided to go with wooden dowels, 2 dowels on each side. One was above the joint on either side, and one was below the joint on either side of the wagon wheel, and this should be plenty strong for many years. Now, I did not have any kind of jig to make sure that my drill bit was going in straight, and the margin of error was very, very small, so I had to make sure that my drill bit went in extremely straight. So what I did was I just extended my arm and made like a stiff arm, and that kind of helped me gauge the drill to make sure that it was going in straight. I went ahead and brought the camera in just a little bit closer so you could get a nice close-up shot of how I was doing this. I keep stopping and checking to make sure that as it went through the side spindle into the wagon wheel, that it was entering the wagon wheel nice and straight, and I definitely didn't want it to poke out the side of the wagon wheel because I did not want to have to remake a section of the wagon wheel. Once I got the holes drilled, I then grabbed the dowel and just did a quick dry fit test just to make sure that everything matched up nice and straight. As you can see here, with a little bit of persuasion with the hammer, it went in nice and smooth. If you've hung out with me for this long in the video, I really appreciate it. This has been quite the project, but we are coming down to the final steps of this rocking chair repair. And after a quick glue up of these small spindles on the back part of the chair that ties the wagon wheel in with the seat, it's time to glue up what I like to call the heart of this chair. This is the part of the chair that ties everything together. This is also the part of the chair that is the most unique part of this chair. And I think this is what really drew the eye to my friend and his wife when they went to the thrift store and found this chair. Now, whenever you're gluing up chairs like this, you want to make sure that you get a good amount of glue deep down into like any holes or anything where mortise and tenons are, just to make sure that there is a good glue bond. After cutting off the excess dowels with my flush cut saw, I then grabbed my Dremel and I shaped the dowels actually to the curvature of the spindles so it wouldn't stick out and be too noticeable once they complete the chair. With a quick blend of some sandpaper, I have to say this chair is complete. Well, I would definitely say this has been a unique challenge, but I am so grateful that my friend allowed me to bring this into the shop and transform it from an unusable rocking chair to something that is usable, that they're going to be able to enjoy for many years. Now, right now, the paint's chipping off and it's not completely done yet. They're going to take it home, they're going to finish the transformation, they're going to paint it up, they're going to do their touches to the chair itself. But I love how the center came together. I enjoyed just grabbing this block of wood, throwing it on the lathe, and turning it, and the challenge to get it just right so it could look almost like the original. I think it turned out amazing. And I love the fact that I used some hardwood, so it's not going to break over time. It's going to be good, strong, and sturdy. Something that they can rely on as they sit in this chair and enjoy it, to read a good book or just relax, because these days we need some time to relax. But thanks for following along in the video. If you've made it this far, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when other videos are uploaded. I hope to upload some more videos here in the coming months. And I'd like to get this chair back. Once they finish it up, I'd like to maybe see if I can get it back in the shop and do a short little video on the complete transformation so you can see it completely refinished. I think they're going to do a great job, and I can't wait to see what they do to complete this chair. This is a very unique chair, and it's actually really comfortable. Even though there's a giant wheel in your back, it's actually very comfortable. But there are a lot of unique chairs like this. You might find one in a thrift store one day, so keep your eyes peeled. You'll never know when you find pretty much a one-of-a-kind piece. So I've really enjoyed this project in the shop, and I'll catch you on the next video.